how to make a business case. So this is basically, how do you defend an idea that you have or a project you want to do?
Lei è Anna Reich, è un ingegnere meccanico, si è laureata a Berlino e ora vive e lavora in Svezia. Ha un canale YouTube in cui condivide tantissime informazioni interessanti sulla vita da ingegnere. In questo video abbiamo fatto una bella chiacchierata e lei ci racconta la sua esperienza universitaria e i suoi progetti professionali. Eccoci alla seconda parte dell'intervista con Anna Reich. Nel primo blocco abbiamo parlato della sua carriera, dell'esperienza, di come ha gestito l'entrata nel mondo del lavoro. Qui approfondiremo un attimo la sua esperienza per quanto riguarda la parte business, quali sono i suoi progetti e soprattutto i suoi consigli per approcciare al meglio il periodo universitario. Sentitela fino in fondo perché ci sono tante informazioni utili e ricordatevi di iscrivervi al canale e segnare delle domande se volete farle per Anna, perché potremmo fare anche una seconda parte con un follow-up. And that's also why I often talk about stepping up and trying to understand what is the contribution of what we do. Did you have this experience? Because I always try to explain people, okay, maybe you are working on one part of something, but try to understand who are the stakeholders of your manager. Your job, it's translated in what in other meetings. You have the chance to see what is the long effect or the chain of the part that you're working on. Yes,
for sure. And I think one thing that you can do is always ask your manager, how does this play into, your deliverables, what you are reporting to your manager? Because that's always interesting to see. And then also you should ideally know how your project matters for the entire business. And that's something that's really done well, I think, at the company I work at, where everyone knows their own goals and how they fit into the company goals and into the department's goals and so on. But this really helps understand a business. And even just working in engineering, you get to understand so many different sides of the business just because you touch them somehow in your work. So that's really, I was surprised that I would get to understand pretty much the whole business just from working in one side of it.
That's back to your first comment, no? Because you want to learn and you want to learn a lot. While there are maybe other personalities that they are so happy to stay in their bubble of the technical part. And there is a video that I published some months ago. I try to explain, the head of an engineering department is not working as an engineer. He's working as a manager. He will not take care of dimensioning a valve or solving a technical problem because he has to fight she has to fight for resources, for priorities, for money, and so on. And this is the video who generates so many flames in the engineers community because they say, but these people, they just want to talk about fluffy topics. No, they are doing a different job. That it's quite likely they are engineers, but they can also not be an engineer because they need to be managers. And so really talking about this other part, exactly, getting the resources, getting the approval, and you don't need to know what is technically the content of the project. You need to see how these will fit as business point of view. And often one of the discussions happening in the production sites is that technicians, of course, they came with the best technical solution, but it's not the best business solution. The business solution, for sure, will have some compromise to increase other metrics like return on investment or these kind of things. And that's really often touching our engineers' ego, no? Because we say, but that's technically it should be stronger, bigger, or with different equipment. That's absolutely a key element. I saw about business that you also mentioned your intention to open an engineering company to start business. So that's interesting. Can you share something about it?
Yes. So I think the first time I had started having this goal was during my bachelor in engineering. I got to do an internship in a consultancy. They were consulting startups and mid-sized companies in technology projects. So helping them get funding from the government. And also to get funding from the government for these innovation projects, you have to basically make a business case for your technology and explain you're making basically like a business plan for your startup or for your project. You're writing down the goals and who's going to be involved in it, how much it's going to cost, what technologies you're going to explore, which technologies you might be impeding on, like other patents that are already existing. You need to look at all the things that, touch such a project. And when I saw kind of who were the people that we were consulting, I thought, okay, I mean, they're not that smart. They're, I mean, of course, they're smart and they're motivated, but they weren't geniuses where I thought, oh, okay, I guess normal people can start a business. And that's the first time I really considered this. And then I just got really interested in learning more about business. I also did a second master's degree here in Sweden, which was in entrepreneurship and innovation management, just because I had the opportunity to do it. And studying is free in Sweden, so it was a no-brainer to do it. So I just learned more and more about entrepreneurship. And I know that this is, the way that I feel the most motivated is if I'm doing something that I chose to do myself. So throughout all of my studies, I was really motivated because I felt like I'm doing this just for myself. And also with my YouTube channel, it's also a project I do just for myself. I set my own goals and then I try really hard to achieve them. And so I feel like, I mean, it's not like I'm not motivated at work, but there's definitely always things that you feel like you didn't choose to do for yourself. That always is the case. And yeah, I think this is kind of why I have the goal to start a business, but I also know that I need more experience for that, at least if I really want to do something in the field of manufacturing where I work.
Yeah.
The more experience you have, the better the problems that you recognize that you could maybe solve with the business.
I fully agree. I think that also if there is exactly a goal with entrepreneurial or all kind of business activities, the experience that you learn in the right company, because I really like companies with big opportunities, geographically well distributed, with international environment or so on, because exactly all the experience that you are doing now with stakeholders management, as you mentioned, fighting for business cases, this will be absolutely your key value when you will start a business, because it will be the same kind of challenges and the experience that you have today in the field, that it's not impacting you personally if something is not approved, because it's part of a bigger list. Tomorrow you cannot waste bullets, let's say, when you have your own business. Then all this experience for sure will be easier to be transferred for the new opportunities. That's quite interesting. I will not ask you time scale or whatever, because then we enter too much in detail. but I think it's very interesting, and I saw also that you are studying a lot and doing courses and reading a lot of books about all the business, the entrepreneurial mindset, and so on. Just today I added in my community a link to your video, 5 books for engineers. What I also appreciate in your videos is that I see a lot of transparency in how you describe, let's say, the skills that are needed at the beginning when you start studying, or the skills in the gap between, as we mentioned, university and so on. And not always people are really so open to share. I saw your video about, let's say, Googling things and so on. These are really, they could seem at the beginning details, but they can really make the difference, because more than the tool is the mindset of exploring, doing the extra mile, looking for some alternative solutions. And so that's also my question. What will be your key suggestions to your 18 years old version? That in your case it's so close. In my case it would be a couple of US presidents ago. But in your case, what would you really say to to yourself before the university?
Yeah, I mean, to build on what you just said, I think knowing that Google is your friend, and even still now in my job, or even more so, whenever I hear about something that I need for my project, I Google it, and just spending maybe 20 minutes researching a new topic can give you such an advantage in the project to ask the right questions. And yeah, so whenever you don't understand something, Google it immediately. That's a suggestion. Don't let it build up, because especially in engineering school, what can happen easily is that you don't understand something in a lecture, and then in the next lecture they just build on top of that knowledge and explain something more, and then you cannot understand that because you didn't understand the basis for it, and then it just
They give
spirals
for
really
granted
quickly.
the previous content.
Yeah, and because you have many different courses at the same time, you don't really have time at that point to catch up anymore, because you're like running behind a little bit everywhere. And whereas if you had just Googled it and spent 2 hours really trying to understand it, or asking your neighbors, asking the professor, asking their assistant, whoever you can ask, that's really well spent time, and it's gonna compound over time. So that's one suggestion. And also for me specifically, to learn how a car works before studying mechanical engineering. That was something a lot of professors just assumed that we know, and I didn't know. So I had a lot of trouble designing a transmission when I didn't really know what it did. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I remember you mentioned it in a video. Yes, this is part of the
yeah, it's just by far the thing that could have had the biggest impact, I think, on my early design courses, because I really enjoyed design work. I just had to design things that I didn't know what they were. And also to not worry about your grades is something I would tell myself, because I was used to having really good grades from high school, and also I was used to not putting a lot of effort in for those grades, I have to say. And so I got really frustrated when I was putting in about the same amount of effort, maybe a little bit more, and was getting way worse grades compared to high school. But I think, like, in the end, these grades have never mattered. There's not a single person that has wanted to see my grades, except for when you finish your bachelor and then you apply for your master. If you want to do a master, then usually you need to have okay grades. But since it's engineering, everyone's going to have a little bit worse grades compared to like other study programs. So you don't need to worry about it. And especially in the beginning, you might have really bad grades in math and physics, but that doesn't mean you're gonna be a bad engineer. It just means maybe you need to find your thing, your area where you're gonna be better. For me, I only found that maybe after 3 years of studying, where I saw that, production technology is really interesting for me, which I knew nothing about before. And it was really natural for me to learn it. So then I suddenly had an advantage over my friends who maybe were super good in the math courses, where I always thought, oh, I'm too stupid for engineering. But then I found something that I can more easily pick up and develop into. Yeah. So I think just, allowing yourself some time to explore and not taking the grades as the ultimate goal, because that's really not what's going to build your career.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, this was something we discussed. It seems that, for instance, if you are, let's say, studying economics and then you have as a first priority entering in that specific business school, then it seems that grades matter, but it's really a specific narrow journey or career path and so on. Or if you want to start working with McKinsey, they take only there. Otherwise, my philosophy at school, at university, was the same. I said, all exams you split in two, either the ones that went incredibly well or the ones that you didn't pass. So for me, the between the minimum or the highest grade there was, and actually I took in Italy, it was, I think it's still today, you pass from 18 up to 30. and I have all of them but 24. I think I have all of, I collect all of them in my career, and honestly, who cares? Just maybe when you do the first job application, you put your master degree graduation, but as you mentioned, in particular for engineering, no one will ever check it seriously. So that's when people ask grades versus time, run away as fast as you can from university and jump in the real world learning and start accumulating experience, seniority, and so on. That's absolutely. Would you recommend to do bachelor master immediately, or bachelor work experience master? What do you think? Because in Italy, up to now, I think 15, 20 years ago, there was only the full laurea, the 5 years. It was one block. When I did it, it was one block. Then we split it to align it with the international standard of bachelor and master. But people, they think that bachelor is half degree. So they go straight to master, just as if it's a way to split a title. What's your experience, or what's your thought now after some experience around it?
So I think for me, there was basically no other way than to do it right after, because I just didn't feel like I knew what I wanted to do at that point. So I was really happy that I could study some more and explore some more things. But I also did get some work experience on the side, something that's really quite possible in Germany, because you have a lot of flexibility in choosing your courses, and also you can drag out your studies a little bit if you want. So I actually studied a little bit longer to be able to work on the side and take less courses per semester, and also take some like extra courses that I didn't need, but that I just thought were really interesting. So I did a couple of internships, and I then started working as a working student, as it's called, in a sort of engineering field, where I was working with quoting machine parts. So where you, I mean, when you order custom parts, so meaning that you make a drawing of a part that you need for your machine, and then you send it to a company that produces them. They then need to look at this. Oh, how much is it going to take to? How much is it going to cost to produce this part? Because it's something they've never made before. So
Yes.
And then so I had to think, okay, so how many tools are we going to need? Which material is this? What is the cost of that material? Things like this. So that gave me already quite a good look into the field, and also gave me some skills, or some way to use my skills of reading a technical drawing and to understand the different materials that you can use, and the different production methodologies, and how much they cost, and how long they take, these kinds of things. So I do think that it's really useful to get some experience, and whether that's, stopping after your bachelor and then working, or whether that's doing an internship every summer, or working on the side in an engineering related role. All of this is going to help figure out also, I mean, there's so many options when you choose your master. So how are you going to know which one to do if you don't have any experience?
No, that's a good point. And actually, unfortunately, in Italy, it's not that easy to do any kind of experience during summer or between. So that's, I think, the part where people need to learn to build their own extra academic curriculum of experiences or so on. And I remember that you mentioned in a video that in this case, you also learned what is possible to be produced, what is not, because as an engineer, it's easier to design something, but then you realize that when you're talking about cutting, welding, or so on, okay, on paper it's there, but in the real world, it's much more difficult to go with the production. And then this helps you also to shape your mind as engineer, understanding what is the real world, exactly what is the need for people in the field, not just to avoid to be in our ivory tower with just theoretical concept and so on. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's so true. And that's also a reason why my university required us to do an internship in production. So actually kind of working as a technician or operator. So I was in this plant. They were building glass making machines, like machines that can make glass. And I was learning how to drill metal, how to do CNC machining, like turning and milling and so on. And so I really saw everything being made. And then you really understand, okay, if there's no way to get to a point in the part, then you really cannot produce it because the tool cannot get there. Or there's just no way to create a certain movement, or even just understanding that some machines, you know, like a turning machine, where the part turns and then you just put, you know, cut on one side. It's going to be much cheaper if everything can be made in this one cut, compared to if you have to take it out and put it back in the other side, or if you have to take it out, put it into a different machine, these kind of things. So it's really great. Even if it's not mandatory, I definitely recommend working in production a little bit and understanding what these different production processes are and how they work.
Fully agree. I see it. I remember when my first experience in the petroleum refinery, you know, these people with 30 years experience in the field, they will chew any engineer because they know everything so well in all the details. They really recognize equipment and machine just from the noise, just from the, that's absolutely, and I think that this is the kind of knowledge and the kind of baggage that will make the difference when you start looking for a job. Not the fact that you have these experiences, these connection, and these real world experience. It's really something that will make the difference. And as I mentioned, this is usually one of the handicap of Italians as candidates, in particular when we look for opportunities abroad, because what is standard abroad is almost exceptional in Italy, and then it's difficult to get it, but we're working on it. Absolutely. I would really thank you, Anna, because it's for the contents that you are sharing in your YouTube channel, the kind of energy that you put in describing different aspects, and also all the information that you share today. I really appreciate the kind of contribution that you're doing, and it's really, for me, it's a pleasure when I see people so young, let me say it, but with the clear path in front of them, because I know that I suspect that you have very clear, no, what are the steps, like in the program you were mentioning earlier, no, what are the steps that will be needed for your career, what kind of know-how and experience and knowledge will be acquired before the next pivotal point, and seeing this journey is really interesting. So I would really like to thank you for also your time in this very nice chat.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I had a great time here. And if you want to do this again in the future, then I'm super happy to. I think I should also interview you at some point, because your career is also super interesting. I think that would
of course, it will be great. And you know what often we do is, in this case, I suspect that there will be a lot of questions, no? So maybe exactly a follow-up will be very nice to be done later on. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. So I really thank you again, and good luck with all your program and all your projects.
Thank you very much.
Che dire, veramente interessantissimo. Secondo me ci sono tantissimi spunti in questa chiacchierata che ritorneranno molto utili per chiunque sia interessato a una carriera sia per la parte tecnica che in generale a livello internazionale. Vi ricordo di iscrivervi al canale e segnare le domande che volete fare ad Anna nei commenti del video, così magari pensiamo a qualche interazione futura. Ciao e a presto!